Hi, I'm Lynette and welcome. Can we talk? My love affair with indie brands. Is it over? Let's talk about it. Welcome to another episode in the Can We Talk series. Now, usually when I do these videos, it's because something's come up. I've seen something, I've heard something, I've come across something that's got me thinking, or maybe I've already been ruminating about something and I've decided to come here and talk about it with you. Now, as always, I got my notes because I like to keep my thoughts straight, make sure I express everything it is I want to express, and we could talk about everything it is I want to talk about. So let me just say, in the last year, I want to say in the last 2 years, but in terms of eyeshadow palettes, and I'm going to be talking about eyeshadow palettes because that's primarily all I buy from indie brands. Maybe some singles, maybe some eyeliners, but for the most part, it's eyeshadow and eyeshadow palettes. And over the last couple of years, I want to say maybe since we had the lockdown, I have been gradually buying more and more eyeshadows from indie brands than from any of the mainstream brands. Now, of course, you have your Pat McGraths, you have your Natasha Denona's, you now have your Danessa Myricks. She's not new, but she came out with some really great palettes these last 2 years. But I've been shopping, I've been discovering like Divina, Blend Bunny, Cleona, Pink Crush, Saints and Sinners, Shroud, Notoriously Morbid, Adept, like all of these. There are so many. You go to Instagram and some new small indie brand that I've never heard of is coming out with their first product or coming out with a new product. So in terms of eyeshadows and eyeshadow palettes, their color stories for me have been more interesting. Their formulas, their metallics have been more interesting. And slowly but surely, gradually over the years, I have been purchasing more and more from them and less eyeshadows from the mainstream brands. Is all of that changing though? Is the love affair over? Is the honeymoon over? Now, I came across this photo. I was on Instagram and I came across this photo of this brand. Now, I'm not here to bash this brand or any indie brands or any brands, okay, for that matter. This is just a photo that I recently came across that spurred me to make this video, but there have been other releases from other indie brands, the names of which now I don't remember, but where I thought, wait, what? This is indie? This is a new palette from Inslee Rain. Okay. This is the Harvest Moon collection. There's a whole collection. And in that collection, there's this eyeshadow palette. It's 18 shades. It has 4 multi-chromes, 4 duochromes, and 6 mattes, and 1 pressed glitter, 1 pressed multi-chrome glitter, 1 diamond matte, and 1 satin shimmer. So it's 18 shades and it retails for $85. Now, $85, and this isn't the first small indie brand palette that I have seen for $85. I have seen others. I saw one, and I should have saved them all, but I didn't know I was gonna make this video. I saw one that was $118, like over $100. I've seen others that have been more than Pat McGrath. Granted, you're getting 18 shadows, okay? You're not getting 10, you're not getting 12, you're getting 18, and you're getting a whole lot of different finishes, multi-chromes, duochromes, glitters, diamond mattes, satins. Like, you're getting a whole plethora of different formulas. But it's still $85 and it's indie. And I don't know, that's like, for me, it's kind of like, since when? Even the smaller palettes, like there, I just spent, what was it, $42, $45 on a 9-pan palette from Shroud. Like, I feel like when I first got into the indie brands and particularly the smaller ones, you could get a 9-pan palette, you could get a 12-pan palette, you could get a 15 maybe pan palette for like $25, for under $30. And now, 40, 45, 85, $100 or more they're charging. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm not feeling these prices. I mean, when these prices are rivaling luxury and mainstream brand prices, I'm finding it a little hard to swallow. I'm finding it a little harder to support as well. And I know like multi-chromes are expensive, and indies have been doing multi-chromes since the beginning of time. And they've been expensive since the beginning of time. Like your average multi-chrome from Divina, from Cleona, we're talking about $17 per single, minimum, anywhere to $25 per single. And I can remember years ago when Dose of Colors came out when a $20 single, and Urban Decay had like $17, $18 singles, and everybody was like, what? Dose of Colors want how much for a single? And these indie brands are regularly putting out $15, $17, $22 multi-chromes, albeit multi-chrome, but singles for that same amount or more. And it's not sitting well with me. It's not sitting well with me. It's not sitting well with me. Call me cheap, I don't know. But indie brands, for me, not only are they more daring, more edgy, but they were less expensive, at least in the beginning, the shadows and the palettes I was purchasing. Now, Mel Cosmetics has always been expensive. As far as I know, Cleona's shadows, their multi-chromes have been expensive, but these one-woman shows show indie brands now, their prices, or this two-woman show or two-man show indie brands, their prices are rivaling the big boys. And I don't know if that's, I don't know if it's warranted. I don't know. I don't know that. Especially when a lot of these palettes are now starting to look the same. There was a big kind of run of all shimmer palettes. It's Belle Cosmetics, Pink Crush Cosmetics. A lot of these small indie brands were putting out these all duochrome, multi-chrome palettes, and I bought a few of them. Okay, I sure did. Pink Crush Cosmetics, these are two shimmer palettes I've shown on my channel before. The Everything All I Ever Wanted palette was really hot. What was that, from It's Belle, or one of the brands had the Break All the Rules palette. Like, so those all shimmer duochrome, multi-chrome palettes, mainly duochrome palettes, maybe with a couple multi-chromes thrown in, got very hot, got very popular recently, especially over the summer. But they've all started to look the same, I guess, as more and more of them, as they became more and more popular, more people were excited about them and purchasing them and selling them out. They started churning out, everybody started churning them out now, and it's gotten to the point where they kind of all have the same duochromes in them, the same multi-chrome shifts in them, and they're all kind of looking the same. Also, they're putting them, a lot of these brands are churning out palettes like a factory, like a conveyor belt. And I'm wondering, and a lot of them, in terms of not just the color story, but the quality, the feel of the shadows, the performance of the shadows, the consistency of the shadows, are very similar, if not the same. And I'm thinking, I don't have any proof of this, this is just my opinion, but I think it's because a lot of these brands are using the same private label manufacturers in China. Not all of them, but I think a lot of them are. The ones that are able to put out a new all shimmer palette or a new palette every other week. You know, they're probably private labeled from the same manufacturers. That's why when I get some of I buy some of these palettes and it's like, okay, I have this already. I have exactly the same thing from another brand and a different palette. And they're probably all dipping from the same well. I don't have any, you know, I'm not making any judgments on that. I don't feel any way about it, bad, negative, positive. I really don't care, to be honest. If it's a product that I like, I really don't care. But some people do. Yeah, and I think that's going on a lot as well. So when you're getting these palettes that they're probably putting together from China for not a lot of cost, and now they are now charging $45 for a 9-pan palette. They're charging $85 for an 18-pan palette. It's like, hold up, wait a minute. Now you do have brands like Nomad, where I think they are, you know, an adept. They're putting their shadows together. I don't know if they're actually formulating them themselves. I'm not sure, because Adept has dropped a lot of new palettes lately, and Nomad has become like the smaller indie brand relative to ColourPop, with all the palettes that they've put out recently as well. So I say all that to say that I don't know if these prices are justified, that they're charging are justified, in my opinion anyway. Then there's also the shipping times and the pre-orders. So if you've tuned into any of my recent videos, for example, my last video with Shroud Cosmetics, the Halloween palette, not only was the quality of the palette not my favorite, but the shipping time was atrocious, okay? It was not a pre-order. That palette was not a pre-order, and it still took a month for me to get it. The communication on the shipping and what was going on with it was like null and void. When I reached out, I got like sort of a canned response about, oh yeah, it'll be shipping in another week. You know, the demand was way more than we expected. Like, come on now, you guys have been in business for how long now? You had the previous It's Freaking Bats palette that was a huge success as well. Like, that whole thing about, oh, we didn't know the demand. I kind of feel like we can't use that anymore. We got to move on to something else at this point. That's not gonna fly. Not with me anymore. And yeah, and then, you know, I wanted my money back at one point because I was like, forget it, I don't even want the palette anymore. Got no response from them, and then it finally shipped, and it just took too long, and my experience was so negative that even before the palette got here, I was thinking to myself, I'm probably never gonna order from them again. And then once it got here and I didn't love it, I'm now like, I'm probably not gonna order from them again. Case in point, Notoriously Morbid. My first time, I think this is my first time ordering from them. Were they Alien Cosmetics at some point? Because if they were, then I did order them from them before. But anyway, they have a new palette. The Rustic Essence palette, that was pre-order, so I knew it was pre-order and I ordered it anyway. Okay, that's on me, my bad. That's on me. But they did say sometime in October it would be shipped. Didn't give any specific time frame, like when in October, just like, oh, somewhere in October it's gonna ship. Okay, still on me. I still ordered it. We are now in late October, and I have seen on Instagram, because they haven't emailed anybody anything, just on Instagram, I just happened to scroll and I saw a post about they were waiting for an ingredient or something. Like, really? Really? They don't know when it's going to ship. And then I just got 2 emails from them. One saying your order has changed, the order status has changed. Your package has been pulled for processing. Okay, so what does that mean? You just now pulled it off the shelf, or you're putting the pans into the actual pallet. Now, what exactly does that mean? And then I got another one recently that says your order is ready, or is ready for shipping soon. Like, okay, so you're sending me an email to tell me you're about to ship it, it's close to being shipped, but it ain't shipped yet. Why don't you just send me the email, skip all these others, and just send me the email that says it's been shipped? How about that? Like, I cannot. And in the meantime, while I'm still waiting patiently for my palette that I've now ordered a month ago now, every time I go on Instagram, there's a new palette that they're coming out with. And I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. You got 6 other palettes now that you're releasing, but I still haven't gotten my palette that I've been waiting for a month now. Are you serious? You know how angry that makes me? It's like when somebody owes you money and then you see them buying all this new shit and you like, hold up, wait a minute, but you owe me. You still owe me. So there's that. And then there's the whole, you know, no return policy, poor customer service. You buy these palettes and then if something happens to them, maybe you can get it rectified if it was destroyed upon shipping, or, you know, but mostly is you buy it, it's yours, there's no return. You can't return it. And then the customer service, like the instance I just explained, like, so when these prices are as high as they've become, I'm looking at indie brands like, really? And then with these increased prices, the quality isn't always the greatest. So I have some indie palettes where the shimmers are beautiful, but the mattes are trash, and vice versa. The mattes were okay, but the shimmers were too sparkly or too messy, and then you've spent this money and of course you can't return it and I'm not going to use it, and so it's kind of like I like half the palette, or I'd like 2/3 or 1/3 of the palette, and the rest of it I don't. So quality assurance issues are another thing to be concerned about when it comes to indie brand eyeshadow palettes. And then I just need to talk about Adept for a minute. Adept Cosmetics. I have, I think, 3 palettes from Adept, and what I've noticed lately, they've been coming out with a lot of palettes recently, and what I've noticed is they came out with the Plain Jane palette. I bought it, and then a few weeks, maybe a month later, they remastered it. They put some new shades in it, they reformulated it, and then they ended the original, and now there's a new one. And then the Amunette new palette, which is now just the Amunette palette. Same thing. They put that palette out, I bought it. And then a couple of weeks later, they changed a couple of the shades. Might have reformulated it too, I'm not sure. And then put it back out and dropped the new, and now it's the Amunette palette. It's like, so the next time they come out with a palette that I might be interested in, am I gonna just wait? Do I wait for them to rearrange the palette, redo the palette, reformulate it, and then put out the second version of it, or do I buy the first original version? Like, I'm not too sure. So with all of that said, I think my love affair with indie brands is starting to wane. The shiny finish is starting to wear off a little bit. It's starting to dull, maybe chip a little bit. And I think going forward, I'm going to be a lot more discerning about what it is I purchase from the brands, especially if the prices continue to go to the way that they've been going. Let me know in the comments below, what's been your experience with indie brands? Are you seeing these inflated prices? Is it affecting your decisions to continue to support them in the same way? Let me know your thoughts down below. Let's talk about it. If you liked this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope to see you again next week. Until then, bye-bye.